Thank you guys so much for coming, and thank you, Dr. Patel, for being here with us. And it's so exciting.
Yes.
And I know this is your first time, so usually when we have these like Chef and Doctor series, I'll talk about a recipe and then I'll start to make stuff trying to explain as we go. And then if you wanna, I'll like pull it over to you, I guess, and talk about the health benefits of the items that we're making here tonight. So the first recipe, as I was just talking to you guys, is a pomegranate kale salad, which tonight it will be the dark tart cherries. And the good thing about this recipe is that if the cherries aren't in season, if the pomegranates aren't in season, you can always put a different type of fruit that, like you can use raspberries or blueberries or, any heart-healthy fruit that is going to be in season. So first thing I'm gonna do is I have baby kale in here. It was only about 4 ounces that I kind of just sliced up, and I have curly kale over here that I took the ribs out and I rinsed it really, really good. I'm just gonna slice this and start putting it into this bowl. And then I'm gonna make the ingredients or the dressing and all the toppings here in just a second. But Dr. Patel, is there any heart-healthy benefits to kale?
Yes, absolutely. It has a lot of antioxidants actually as part of, the American Heart Association Mediterranean diet recommendation. We recommend at least 2 to 3 servings of vegetables a day, which can include any green leafy vegetable, kale, spinach, mixed greens, super greens. And they all have great benefit. So yeah, absolutely, it provides a lot of antioxidants.
Perfect. A lot of people put them in smoothies too. Like if you don't like
that is true.
Kale, you can always whip it up into a smoothie. I like curly kale because I like the crunch and the texture personally. And then I put that baby kale in there just for it's a little softer, so it's not as leafy and kind of cumbersome to chew through. So I kind of mix it up. You can really put you can use spring mix in this too. I just really like this kale, and it goes really well with the dressing. So I'm going to, this is probably enough lettuce here for this salad that we're gonna do. And then the next ingredient I have is this fennel bulb. I actually cut the fronds off. You can save the fronds if you're like making a vegetable stock or anything else. But I just went ahead and cut those off because we're not gonna really need them for anything here tonight. And I'm gonna use this mandolin to slice it really nice and thin. If you don't have one, you could just use your knife at home. But they're pretty inexpensive, and just watch your fingers. But I like to make them super thin like this because it adds, again, another crunch. And I just really like the taste of fennel. I feel like in the farmers markets during fennel season, or if anybody ever subscribes to a CSA box. I don't know if you guys ever did that, but it's a community supported agriculture box, and some people subscribe to them, and sometimes they get these like funky vegetables. They're like, what am I gonna do with that? And sometimes fennel is like that for some people. So I just wanted to give it a try tonight. So if those of you who haven't had fennel can try it, because it's delicious. And it adds delicious flavor. And this fennel bulb is a little big. It calls for 1 small fennel bulb, but this is about a medium, so I'm not gonna do the whole thing. But I'm gonna go ahead and put the sliced fennel right on top. We're gonna toss the salad all together here.
I've never had that kind of fennel before.
No? Do you cook with fennel at all?
We have fennel seeds.
Fennel seeds,
like in
yes.
Indian, yeah. So diet is such a, I think cultural thing as well.
Yes.
It's affected by your, social, cultural influences, and then also for some people it is economic, like financial driven too,
Absolutely.
For like depending on the options, how expensive it is versus how not, Yeah, so in Indian culture it is, fennel is usually used as seeds and dried seeds.
Yes.
Yeah, it's to saute the vegetables or the, legumes and nuts.
And it's so good.
Yes.
The seeds are it's the same, flavor profile as the fresh stuff, and it's so good. And when fennel is in season, especially if you go to any of the farmers markets around here, a lot of the like local farms and stuff will have fennel, and it'll be pretty expensive because, again, it's like people don't know what to do with it a little bit. So they're
It's good to put in soups and use the immersion blender
Yes.
to add a lot of flavor.
Absolutely. I like them in soups too, and I like to cook them. They're really nice stewed. There's so many different things that you can do with fennel. So what I just added to here is dried cranberries, but I get the cranberries that are no sugar added. So, because the cranberries already have, some sweetness and some sugar in it, so you don't look at the back of the package when you are buying dried cranberries to make sure that there isn't any added sugar to it. So I have these little dried cranberries. This is 1/4 cup. And then I'm gonna put, this is 2 scallions. I like a little bit of oniony taste in my salads, but I don't like that harsh full-on onion. And this is like a nice little way to add some savoriness to a salad. So I'm gonna go ahead and put those right on in there. And I have a 1/2 cup of toasted pistachios. They're unsalted, just toasted pistachios. I'm gonna just run my knife through these here to chop them up a little bit. I like a nice crunch in the salad to break up some of those leaves. What are some really good heart-healthy nuts?
That's what I was thinking looking at those pistachios. So, like Mediterranean diet, like I said, right now is the best recommended diet. It has a lot of data for it. And part of the Mediterranean diet is a lot of heart-healthy nuts. So one of the heart-healthy nut is definitely pistachio. Walnuts, they have a lot of omega-3, naturally occurring omega-3 fatty acids. Almonds, some macadamia nuts. Yes.
Macadamia nuts are so good.
Yes. But you want to stay away from walnuts, some pecans, peanuts. Okay. They have higher saturated fat.
Okay.
So if you want polyunsaturated fat, like heart-healthy nuts, it recommended is walnuts, almonds, pistachios, macadamia nuts. But again, the recommendation is not to have more than fistful in a day.
Okay.
Yeah, but the nuts helps. There were some studies done to see if just like increasing consumption of nuts would decrease your cholesterol level. And it does. It decreases bad cholesterol LDL. Does not increase your good cholesterol HDL as much, but it does have significant impact on decreasing the bad cholesterol.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Interesting. And then this is optional. You can put it in or not. This is some crumbled feta. This is a fat-free crumbled feta that I got. So I'm going to crumble this on top. It just adds a little saltiness to the salad. So I'm going to put this on top. And then here are these delicious dark cherries.
We would assume they're pomegranates for today.
Exactly. And they're quartered, so they're small enough. I'm not going to cut them up anymore, but I just took the little seeds out. If you have a cherry pitter, then that's fine, but I didn't bring one with me today. So I'm just going to put this right on top. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start the dressing, which is going to be Dijon mustard, this raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar, olive oil, a little bit of water, and some chopped parsley in there. And the reason why I put the water in the vinaigrette is because instead of making a super heavy olive oil or oil-based dressing, you can cut out a lot of that oil if you just put a little bit of water in there, and you honestly wouldn't be able to tell. I make a lot of my dressings at home like that, so I'm not just sitting there eating just a ton of oil. So I'm going to go ahead and just start whisking all this stuff together. But are there any heart health benefits to cherries?
Cherries, I think just like any other fruits have some antioxidant benefits. I don't know anything specific about cherries as such.
I know, I put you on the spot with that one because it was supposed to be pomegranates. I just tease it.
Tart cherry juice and cherries are supposed to be good to help sleep.
I have heard that.
Unsweetened tart cherry juice.
Mm-hmm. I do have it at my house because I think it's delicious. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I haven't tested the sleep theory though.
Yeah, not so aware. This is the first time I'm hearing about it, that it helps with sleep.
So what is, because a lot of people will eat salads, right? Thinking that all salads are heart healthy. And I know a lot of people will, especially now, like chain restaurants now, they all have the calorie counts of salads. And some people look at a salad and there are more calories than like a hamburger. And that is all because of the dressing.
That is all because of the dressing and the ingredients that you're adding to it.
Yes.
So like being mindful about addition of nuts, fruits, cheese, dairy products. Some people, they love cheese on their salad. Then you're actually defeating the purpose of having a salad. Again, with the dressing, it could be very heavy on the oil versus saturated fats as well, because if you use, the regular dressings, that has a lot of sodium as well, apart from fat. And that causes a lot of fluid retention.
Yes. Yeah, so that's why I'm using the Dijon mustard and the apple cider vinegar to stay away from using a bunch of salt, because some high acid like that, you don't have to put the salt in there, so you can kind of stay away from using a ton of salt if you're using stuff like apple cider vinegar and Dijon mustard. And that Dijon mustard is also going to act as an emulsifier in the dressing when I go to whisk in the olive oil here in just a second. And like I said, I use the water to cut down the amount of oil. Do you do that if you make salad dressings at your house? The same thing? Yeah, it's funny because like I never really thought about that until I started really doing these cooking classes with doctors, and because you always think like it's just salad. I'm going to use salad because it's healthy. But not all salad is created equally.
Not all salads are healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I asked some of my patients that, do you use any added salt, or like, do you watch salt in your diet? And they're like, yes, I completely watch salt. I don't have anything outside the usual. I prepare my own salads. How about the dressings? Oh, I get the ready-made dressings. That's where the sodium comes from, and the fat content as well.
Yeah. And it's so easy to make your own dressing at home.
That's true. So making your own dressing helps and decreases the fat and the sodium content.
Yeah. I make, even like this dressing, you could put all the ingredients in a mason jar and just shake it up. Or if you like a little bit more creamy dressing, you can always put all of them into a blender and then just blend it up until it's all emulsified together. And it'll be nice and creamy, and it'll just put it into a container and put it into your refrigerator, and you'll be good to go. Super easy to make, and you can sub this. You can sub, if you don't like apple cider vinegar, you could sub balsamic vinegar, which balsamic vinegar is aged, and it does have a little bit more of like a sugar content than like an apple cider vinegar or like a red wine vinegar or anything. It's a little bit higher than like sugar content for that. But other than that, apple cider is my go-to vinegar. I don't know why. I just like it. It's delicious. And I'm just slowly whisking this olive oil in to create the emulsion instead of putting it into a blender tonight. And then we'll put this dressing on top and mix it up and pass it around so you guys can start eating. And the next recipe we're gonna do is a toasted sprouted brown rice pilaf, which is one of my favorite things to make. It's got almonds in it too, a little bit of almonds.
But yeah, olive oil has a lot of polyunsaturated fat. And as part of Mediterranean diet, there is significant use of olive oil as their main base.
So out of all the Mediterranean diets, because you have like Greek and Italian and all these things, I know they've done a lot of like research on obviously Mediterranean diet, but what do you think, like out of all the Mediterranean countries or whatever, do you think?
So yes, there is no real consensus about what exactly makes the Mediterranean diet like this country versus that. Yeah. What is ideal, what is considered part of the Mediterranean diet is like significant salad, olive oil as their main thing, nuts, a fistful of nuts every day, and low to moderate amount of consumption of red wine, and limiting dairy intake, red meat. and more focus on the non-fried fish, poultry, chicken. So that's just the general consensus, like not like, okay, this country, like Greek Mediterranean versus this, yes.
All right. I know, because I always tease one of my friends. She always says that she's on the Mediterranean diet. I'm like, oh, this is like the 7th night in a row you've had pasta. I'm just teasing. She's like, it's Mediterranean. No, I'm just kidding.
No, it's good that you clarify that this is the Mediterranean diet, yes. But it has shown to be really effective in like decreasing your overall cardiovascular risk, decreasing stroke risk. One of the recent studies also showed some benefits of like longevity and decreasing cancer risk.
So when they're talking about small amounts of red wine, that's like a 2-ounce pour, right?
Yes. And that is, again, low to moderate consumption. So American Heart Association, for that reason, do not recommend, as to start the red wine to help and to have cardiovascular benefits. It is not recommended because of significant calorie consumption as well. So it defeats the purpose. But yes, if you're going to have a wine, then preferably have red wine. That would help you overall, and again, in low to moderate quantity.
Perfect. All right, well, this salad is all mixed together. So I'm gonna have Jackie, I have some, oh, you got some.
I got some.
And she's gonna serve you guys some salad. And then the next thing we're gonna get started, yes?
Does it have avocado? I mean, it's on the list.
Oh yeah, sorry. Thank you for reminding me, dear Lord. I do have avocado right here. All this excitement of tonight, I forgot. Yeah, so I have an avocado here and I'm gonna slice it and I'll put it on top so everybody can get a little slice of avocado. Dear Lord. I know, it just turned into a case of the Mondays for me as well.
That's what we said. It's been the most Monday of all Mondays.
Oh my goodness, between the
How
internet.
many times on a holiday have you had your meal and you go to the refrigerator and, oh, here's the whatever.
Oh yeah.
That never got to the
So we
table.
had company over tonight, and this is what happened.
Goodness, I know, I've done that quite often. I made, actually, a couple weekends ago, we had family over and I made like a vinegar-based like coleslaw and completely forgot it. And I didn't even realize it that night. And then like a couple days later, it was out in our garage fridge and I walked out there and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Well presented.
Yes.
Are you looking at our compost bowl?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
So, do you want to talk about it?
She put the seed in there.
Yes. So,
Are you not?
I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
We
let me
don't-
see. I've got the list.
yeah, so so we compost here at the center. So any sort of vegetation can go in here. So I put the skins of the ginger, the stems of parsley. This is the top of the fennel, and then the avocado seed I put in there. So it's any organic matter. What you don't want to put in a compost is a lot of fat. So like you can put a little bit, but like if you're trimming chicken or something like that, a lot of the fat needs to go in the garbage can because the fat doesn't break down very easily in a compost. But like fish skin you can put in there, like any like fish, like if you're cutting the fish or anything, and there's like anything like that can go in there. Eggshells, anything like that can go into the compost. And they use O-Town compost here. Right? Compost?
Yep,
okay.
compost.
Then they come, that's like a program here locally that can pick up compost from your house and then they compost it. And I know when I was here at Nourish, I think we diverted like over like 400 pounds of trash from the local landfill just by
I think
composting.
we're up to 3,000 pounds by now.
Yeah.
In 6 months. So, and what's interesting, in my neighborhood, my husband and I were walking this weekend, and for the first time out in the wild, I saw a yard that was completely covered in compost from O-Town composting.
Yeah.
So you have a couple options when you turn it into them. You can donate it, or as part of the program, they'll bring you X pounds of compost per year that you get back for your garden or your area. So this house was a corner lot that is redoing all of its grass, and it was all like had the composting piled up and was doing it. So yeah.
Yes, so I like composting. I do it at my house. I don't have O-Town compost because I live in Longwood. So, but I like put it in my veggie, my little veggie garden that I have. Well, I pretend that I have a veggie garden. I don't have a green thumb, but I like to pretend. I have some herbs in there right now, and I haven't killed them yet, so they're thriving at the moment.
They call me the plant killer.
Exactly. Yes, and thank you for catching me on the avocado.
I'm gonna go show it to the camera first for us, and then we will take 55 minutes.
So what about avocados? Having avocados for heart healthy.
Absolutely. It's, again, significant amount of naturally occurring polyunsaturated fat. So,
Go ahead.
Well, before I get the salmon started, and while she serves that up, I'm going to talk about this brown rice and almond pilaf. So I'm gonna, for this recipe, I'm gonna do 1 cup of, this is sprouted brown rice. I have not thoroughly washed it yet, so I'm gonna wash it here in a second. And then I'm gonna do 1.25 cups of vegetable stock. I have some fresh ginger here that I'm gonna grate on my microplane. I have 1 small shallot that I minced up here. And I'm gonna have 4 little cloves of garlic. I'll go through all that. I just wanted to go over the recipes first. And then I have some slivered almonds. The whole recipe calls for 1/4 cup of slivered almonds, so I'll go ahead and measure those out when we get closer. And 2 tablespoons of chopped parsley. So let me rinse this brown rice real fast. Huh?
What is sprouted brown rice?
So, sprouted brown rice. Here, actually, where's my bag? I will show you. Let me grab it out of my bag real fast. Boop, 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 boop. I buy this. It's called sprouted brown rice, short grain brown rice. And I like it because it is sprouted, so it's easier to digest. It's easier on your tummy. And the act of sprouting a grain is supposed to be a little bit healthier for you.
more protein and fiber.
More protein and fiber, and it's more digestible, right?
More digestible, yes, because of the fiber content and the water content. Yeah.
30 minutes instead of an hour, right?
Yes, and sometimes even shorter. Like I'm gonna toast it a little bit before I add the water. And I like still kind of a little bite to my, I don't like it to be like mushy, my brown rice. So I have a little bit shorter cook time on that too. So we'll get that started here. And just
Where do you get that?
I got it at Publix.
Really?
Oh, really?
Public.
Yeah.
And you can't sprout regular at home?
You know, I've never tried to do that. I know you can sprout certain things at home.
I do that, but not with the brown rice, though. I mean, I have done some of the legumes that we sprout at home.
I've heard that some of them are really easy to sprout.
Yeah, there is a small container. I don't know if it is available here, if I have seen anything, but I got one from India.
Okay.
Because we, back from the culture that I come, it's vegetarian. So we have a lot of legumes as part of our diet. And part of the legumes is, just sprouted legumes. Yeah. So we use a lot of sprouted grains. And that's why we have that container where you put a little bit of water and just like wet the legume or whatever you want to sprout. Just put a layer of that and then just close it and put it outside for like 24 hours and it will sprout on its own.
No kidding. Cool.
They-
This salad is incredible.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I have a relevant question from home. I
Sure.
told people to email me their questions.
Oh,
Sure,
perfect.
sure.
Getting close to you, so the microphone picks me up a little bit. But this
Yeah.
is from Sue at home, who says the consumption of beans seems to be getting a bad rap these days. What are your thoughts on the consumption of beans for overall health and heart health?
So it is recommended, because I don't know in terms of bad reputation for what in terms of beans, because beans are a good substitute for protein when you compare it to the red meat, a lot of saturated processed meat. So beans could be a good way to increase the protein content in your diet.
Okay. I was gonna say, I think It's funny because certain things like that you hear from certain people, or certain fad diets and stuff like that will say certain things are bad. And I have heard recently that having too many beans were bad for you, but because I think that's coming from it's a carb.
Oh, okay.
Keto diet.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the keto diet.
No beans at all.
Yeah. So, but in terms of heart health, I think beans are good for you.
Beans are good. Yes. Again, there are a lot of different kinds of diet. Mediterranean diet is one of those. Keto diet, people hear about it. But for the keto diet, the problem is with the fat consumption, and a lot of that fat is in the form of saturated fat, processed fat. If it is in form of naturally occurring oils, naturally occurring polyunsaturated fat like avocados, olive oil, that's okay. But you don't want to increase your content of significant saturated trans fat, processed fat. Again, as part of keto diet, there is, and also there is again a whole new kind of diet, which is called just the low carb diet, not the keto diet. Right. Yes. But there is not much data to support the benefit of low carb diet over a long period of time. Right. People follow low carb diet to have weight loss and thereby achieve the benefit of decreasing cholesterol, keeping the blood pressure under control, blood sugars under control. But it was compared to Mediterranean diet in some of the studies, and it does not have longer lasting effects.
Perfect. Do you guys see what Colette's doing? I've had one of these for years that I only ever used for Parmesan cheese. And I was like, oh, this is much easier than mincing garlic. So she's just taking her garlic with the microplaner.
I love this little thing. It's like $15, and they last for a long time. And so instead of mincing garlic, I love to grate it on this little thing. They have them in different widths. I always just get this one. Yeah. So I put shallots. It got really hot, so I turned it off for a second. But what I put in there is I put 1 tablespoon of avocado oil. And I did avocado oil in this instead of olive oil because I am sauteing it, and avocado oil has a higher smoke point, than than olive oil. So that's why I use it in this. So I'm just sauteing the shallots, the garlic, and then this ginger. And I'm gonna do the ginger right on this microplane too, so it's nice and small. And about a tablespoon of ginger. You can never have enough ginger. I love ginger.
I have one of those as well at home that I use for grate. Yes.
Oh, I love these things.
I only use it for ginger and garlic.
Do you?
Yes.
I love this thing. I zest stuff on it, like lemons and limes. That's great. So, and then I have a little small one for fresh nutmeg.
Oh.
Wow.
I'm gonna turn this back on since it was getting a little hot. So the idea here is to just make to where you start getting a smell, like a perfume from the ginger and the garlic and the shallots, which since it was hot before, I think we're kind of already there.
This may be a really stupid question.
It's no stupid questions here.
Spicing up, grinding up your own spices, is that healthier than what you buy in a can?
So,
Jar?
when you go, yeah, do you want to answer that? Or do you want me to answer it?
Yes. Because of the preservatives, that's what I tend to avoid anything that is bottled up, especially like ginger, garlic, or even pickles for us Indians. We try to avoid that because of the preservatives and the higher sodium content.
Yeah, so even and when you think of things of in terms of cooking, the closer to nature it is, the more health benefits you're gonna have. Because for instance, we could use a dried ginger powder, but this fresh ginger is gonna have more micronutrients in it than a dried ginger, if that makes sense.
And I feel it has more aroma to it too.
Yes.
Do you grate up the cinnamon sticks for your cinnamon and stuff like that?
Honestly, I don't, if I'm gonna cook something with cinnamon, for instance, I just made the other day a blueberry compote, and it had cinnamon in it. Instead of like grating cinnamon, I just like cooked it with a cinnamon stick, and then I took the stick out. So it had like the flavor of it in there, but it didn't.
See, I put it on my yogurt, so.
Then you need the grinder.
Yeah.
Where did you get cherries?
The cherries I got at Publix.
And they were just fresh cherries?
Yeah, they have the cherry season right now. So they had some fresh cherries on sale.
And they're so firm.
Yeah.
They were very firm.
I went through a couple bags.
I love
I'm-
cherries, but these were, they always seem,
Soft.
yeah, which is fine to eat.
Yeah.
But in the salad, they were perfect.
Oh, thank you. I am one of those annoying people at the grocery store that goes like through the strawberries and get all the. You're allowed to do that, people. Just kidding.
Like you go through like 10 bags to pick one bag.
I mean, you're paying for them, and it's a premium right now. So why not get the ones you
Always
want?
wash your produce when you get home.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Always wash your produce.
And I'm so close. Like I stay with the tomatoes and avocados for 10 minutes, like picking my tomato, which one is really, firm.
Yes, you have to.
Yeah, I'm going to ask another question. Can you repeat it so that the
Sure.
camera can hear it? Is that better?
Absolutely.
So the question is, I'm experiencing heart palpitations due to iron deficiency. What are the best foods to eat to help iron levels go up and heart palpitations go away? So if one of you can repeat that.
Oh goodness gracious! You want me
So somebody is asking the question from home that they're experiencing heart palpitations and they've been diagnosed with iron deficiency anemia. So what are the question is that what are the food or what changes they can make to the diet to increase the iron content and help with the heart palpitations?
Perfect. You nailed that.
What's the answer?
Well, I recommend usually like green leafy vegetables. That has good iron content, some of it. Sometimes like dates have good iron content. Yeah. But again, it also depends on if the heart palpitations is just related to the iron deficiency or if there is something else contributing to it as well. Again, keeping more so like balanced diet with electrolytes as well, like making sure that they have a lot of potassium and magnesium in their diet as part to the diet as well, addition, along with the iron, and that helps. Maybe you can comment more on the iron content food.
Well, I was. This is just kind of a little bit random because I had an iron deficiency when I was pregnant. And my midwife we started cooking in cast iron.
Yes, cast iron.
We cooked almost everything in cast iron.
And that helps.
And that helps with, iron. And so I made that small change and I started eating a lot more dark leafy greens and my iron came back to normal. So.
And then as a follow-up, she said, do vitamin B12 and folic acid help, and are they safe to take daily?
For the heart palpitations? Since they are still the supplements, I'm not sure if it would really contribute and help in terms of heart palpitations. But yes, especially for vegetarian diet, vitamin B12 is on the lower side. So that's why supplementation is recommended. But if somebody already has animal protein as part of their diet, supplementation with vitamin B12 and folic acid is not as such recommended unless they have been diagnosed with deficiencies.
Mm-hmm. All right then. Yes.
I have a question. This is a non-sequitur question. But you mentioned saturated fat. So when we talk about butter versus margarines, what is your recommendation?
So traditionally, both of those have saturated fat. Nowadays, what is recommended is like nut butter. So the butter based on nuts that has more polyunsaturated fat than the saturated fat.
Oh, okay.
You know what we started using recently at my house is for the dishes that kind of need a little bit of like that creaminess from a butter, is they have avocado butter. So it's
That I did not know about.
Yeah, we just started in the last couple of weeks. I got something and I started using it, and it's like a little tub of it or whatever, and it's just avocado oil.
But more creamier taste to it.
Yeah, creamier. So it's not like a pour. You can't pour it. It's in the refrigerated section. So I've been playing around with that.
So it can be used as a table butter.
Absolutely, it's spreadable and everything. You keep it in the refrigerator.
Yeah, same thing with the nut butter too.
Yeah. What about Smart Balance? That's what I use. Is that, that one?
So there are a lot of things in the market where they say that they have fortified it with, some stenols, where it can have some benefit in keeping the cholesterol on the lower side, like saturated fat on the lower side. But still, there is some processed fat in it, so trans fat in it. So it is still not the ideal recommended butter.
I've read that the solidification of the
Hydrogenation process, yes, that
Right,
increases the trans
that's
fat.
what- Yes, that's why I was asking about using it as a table butter.
Yeah, and I don't know, like I honestly have to look at the avocado butter because I wasn't even looking at that part of it. So that's one good thing I have to check out. So this is going. I put the lid on it. I turned it on low. It came up to a boil. So the rice will be done here shortly in a little bit. The liquid I used is a vegetable stock. So I do the vegetable stock for a little bit more flavor than just a regular water. You don't have to use vegetable stock. You can use regular water if you want to. I just think it adds a little bit more oomph using the vegetable stock. And before we move on to the salmon next, I just want to explain it real fast and then we can go into it. This recipe calls for 1/4 cup of low sodium coconut aminos. It's an alternative to soy sauce. So I have just 1/4 cup here. And then I'm going to put more ginger and garlic because I'm kind of, it's kind of a theme here. And I love ginger and I think it's really good. It's really good on the salmon. So then it's going to, we're going to add everything to this except for the avocado oil. So I'm going to put toasted sesame oil in here, just a little bit of pure maple syrup just to sweeten it up just a little bit. And then we're going to finish it with some sesame seeds and some scallions. So I'm going to go ahead and grade these right now. But I chose salmon because particularly at my house, we eat a lot of, if we are going to eat meat, we eat a lot of salmon and fish. Is that good for our heart-healthy diet?
Yes. If you're going to use animal protein, then fish chicken is the recommended animal protein. And some of the fishes are high in omega-3 fatty acids, and salmon is one of that.
And one of the things is that I particularly have heard over the years, so maybe you can help confirm maybe, is that when you are looking for a fish, you want to make sure that you're getting wild-caught fish. And because the difference is, it's eating a wild diet, it's not eating, whatever is being farmed or whatever. So I always try to get wild. I particularly like the sockeye salmon. So usually that's what I get. It'll have a deeper, richer color than a farmed salmon because the farmed salmon is just like color is added to their feed to get the pink because even in the wild, salmon is the color it is because of what they eat. So I always think of it like, do you want to have a salmon that ate like McDonald's or do you want to have a salmon that ate, delicious stuff? So I always, and like I said, it is a little bit more expensive, so we don't do it all the time, but it is, it is higher. I don't know, I had to look back, but because I feel like the wild-caught salmon has a more nutritious value to it than a farm-raised salmon.
That I'm not aware of.
I think I heard that. I'm gonna go with that. So to this coconut aminos, I put the fresh ginger and the fresh garlic, and then I'm gonna put this toasted sesame seed oil. Just put it right on here, boop, and a little bit of maple syrup. And then
Yeah.
this I'm gonna put in this pan.
How do you store the leftover fennel bulb? Just in the refrigerator?
Yeah, I just cover it up and put it in. Or you can go ahead and grate it all if you want to, and store it in some cold water in the refrigerator, and that'll help it from turn brown or anything.
It's great.
I heard you can freeze some of that stuff.
The fennel?
Oh, the fennel.
Oh, what were you talking
I
about?
was thinking of the spices. I'm sorry.
Oh, you can freeze
My
spices.
daughter does.
Yeah, because it does have an expiration date. Like spices don't last forever, and it's funny because we had a cooking class here. I don't know, one day last year, and this lady's like, "Oh my gosh, I went to go use. I don't remember what spice it was," and she goes. And didn't think to taste it. She doesn't ever cook. She's like, and then at the end of the dish, she's like, it tastes rancid. And it was because her spices were bad. She didn't remember the last time she had.
Use those spices.
Yeah, in my house, well, spices don't get a chance to go bad. But, so I'm gonna pan sear this, and I have this on like about a medium heat, and you wanna make sure the pan's like hot enough so it doesn't stick. And to make sure it's hot enough, I always keep my hand over there, and if I can't, keep it over there for a couple seconds and you know it's hot enough. And I'm gonna add avocado oil once again to it. We're gonna sear it on the first side until it's nice and golden brown. Then I'm gonna flip it over, and then we'll add our little mixture.
We have the cooktop camera up here.
Oh, yeah, look at that. Fancy.
Oh, it's fancy. It's this camera here.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so fancy.
So usually we do this like when we have like Zooms and stuff. Poor
This is
people.
what the people at home should be saying.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Poor people at home. All right.
Did
so
it even start working or no? The link, it did not start working?
Now, well,
No.
I think when the internet went down, it did something to our Zoom link too. It was just
Oh.
one thing after another. So we didn't want to hold it up anymore. So Tiffany over the corner there, thankfully, is recording it. We're going to send the full video out to everybody. So we can send it to you guys too. So it'll be on our website if you want to rewatch it later or share it with anybody.
That'd be great.
Okay, so I have the salmon. It's nice and hot. I'm gonna go ahead and add there nice and slowly. You don't wanna. And I just put pepper on here. And the reason is I'm not putting any salt in this because even though it's a low sodium liquid aminos, it's still gonna have a salt content to it. So I'm gonna go ahead and just let that sear. And usually when the fish is done, it'll release itself. You shouldn't have to fight with it or anything. Let me go put this over here and wash my hands real fast. All right. I know I've taught a couple of Mediterranean diet classes here, and I know some of the good sardines and stuff like that have really high omega-3s.
Yes.
People are a little scared of those, so I haven't gone into those ones yet, but salmon seems to be pretty safe.
Now, is that for all fish? Does it really release itself?
Huh?
Is that for all fish? Is that all fish?
Yeah.
And it's just fish? Is it?
Most proteins should be like that, because once that's called the Maillard reaction, where the proteins in the meat and the heat, when they get hot enough or they're cooked enough, it should just be able to release, and then you should just be able to flip it. Yeah, so you have to always make sure your pan's super hot. If you've ever started, haven't put your pan on and then you put your protein into the pan before it gets hot, it's always gonna stick. It doesn't matter how much non-stick spray or anything else you use, it is always gonna stick because it doesn't have that chance to get that hard sear on it really. So let me grab a fork real quick to mix this up.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I do.
A lot of the salmon that I've seen usually comes with the skin on it.
Yeah.
is, do you peel the skin off before you cook it?
So you can keep the skin on like while you're cooking it, and then it's gonna be much easier to just peel it right off once it's done being cooked. Because if you try to take it off before, it's gonna be a bear to get it off. If you don't have a really sharp knife and you can get like one slice, it can be really hard to do. So if you cook it first, and then it'll just peel right off.
So skin side down or skin side up?
You would start it skin side down if it had skin on it. You would cook that first, turn it over, and then it'll just release off the top. And then that's when you put your sauce in it. So let me check it real fast. So as part of your culture, what is some really like good heart healthy dishes? Like that's Indian food. I love Indian food.
So we cook with a lot of spices.
Yeah.
Turmeric. Recently there is some data, still not like randomized trial-based data. It is more so some observational studies showing some benefit of turmeric, which is what we use.
Yeah.
But we have, like I said that I'm a vegetarian, so we have a lot of green leafy vegetables that we cook. Some of the vegetables are not even available in the, I only find it in the Indian store.
Spices,
But
a good place to get them is the little store in Winter Park, because you can buy them by, I think it's an ounce, a small amount. So
Yes.
if you want to learn and
try it.
some new spices and don't, because some of them are very expensive.
Yeah.
That is
But
true.
you can get this amount, and plus they'll be fresh.
Yes.
It's on the downstairs Panera Bread on Park Avenue. I don't know the name of
Is it called the Spice and Tea Exchange?
Yeah.
I think I've been
They
there
have
before.
tea too. Yeah, they have tea too.
Yeah.
Some of the green leafy vegetables that you can only get in the store.
So fenugreek, not the fennel, but there is a fenugreek that you only get in Indian store. Different. Yeah, and we cook it just with very minimal oil and some spices, just like as a curry. What I try to do is I try to combine the green leafy vegetables with some of the legumes and give it like a soupy flavor to it. Yeah. So that has like combination of protein, fibers, your antioxidants added to it.
And you use a little broth to kind of, when you...
Water.
Water.
Just water.
Okay, and the flavor from the spices.
Yeah, just flavor from the spices would pick up with the water. Yeah, and then let it boil and simmer for some time, and that just adds to it.
Right. And how about cooking the beans? I was just reading an article that instead of soaking them, to do them it was just actually in the Public Squire about doing slow cooking them instead of doing a pre-soak and then cooking them in a way that you might want to just slow cook them for 10 hours. I tried them and it burned, but I'm gonna try again. I don't know what happened, but yeah. So I just wondered how you prepared the best way to prepare a dried bean.
I've always soaked
I have
them.
always soaked them
Yeah.
too.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was in the. It looked good too. It was herbs, 2 ounces of water, and a quarter cup of olive oil. And
Ah.
you slow cook it for 10 hours. And heavy herbs. So I gave it a shot. I don't think I put in. It did call for a little bit of water, but it was like 2 inches above. So now it becomes a random. What's 2 inches?
Yeah.
So I just wondered.
But believe it or not, that's how I do when I cook my legumes or some of the other dishes. It's like 2 inches, so I have measured it with my finger. That's how I put it in my finger, 2 inches,
I'm gonna get my ruler out this time.
I was gonna say, because I like to cook with a lot of turmeric too. So when you're cooking with turmeric, do you use the fresh turmeric or do you use dried turmeric?
So usually we use the dried turmeric, yes. But then there is a season that comes in India, like in winter season, there is like fresh turmeric that is also available in Indian stores. What we do is we cut it, like slice it, like small slivers, like just like almonds, and mix it with a little bit of lemon and a little bit of salt, and like have it every day as like a small part to your meal. Yeah, like fresh turmeric.
I know whenever like cold season comes around and everybody's getting sick, I always like get those like little turmeric knobs.
Yes.
And I I will take a piece of garlic, a piece of turmeric, a piece of ginger, and I swallow with a little bit of local honey. And I swear, it makes me like, I don't get sick that way. But
That's funny, but as part of, when I was growing up and if I would get a cold, my mom would use like dried ginger powder, mix it with a little bit of honey, and then she would just put it on my tongue. Like, okay, swallow this, Yeah, and then turmeric, like the dry turmeric, she would put it in like a small, cup of milk, warm it up, like a lukewarm milk, and mix the turmeric and just have it at night. Some people have turmeric milk like that at night every day just to get like radiance of the skin.
So you can go to fancy juice bars around here, and they call that golden milk.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. You can make it at home.
But it's the same thing. It's they usually use like some type of either like oat milk or nut milk, and then they like have turmeric in it, and some people put ginger in it, maybe a little bit of cinnamon. It's called golden milk.
Golden, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just plain milk with turmeric. Nothing else added to it.
So this is just some sesame seeds that I'm going to put on top. Black sesame seeds, white sesame seeds, and then some toasted sesame seeds for a little bit of depth of flavor. So this is almost done cooking, and I'm going to put it on this plate, and then I'm going to check the rice. And those are our specific recipes that we're doing today. So I only chose 3 recipes today, so that way we could have some time to talk if there was any more questions about heart health and cooking and all that fun stuff. So, being that it's Heart Health Month, and that it's
that is true. In February is the Heart Health Month.
And it's almost Valentine's Day. What shouldn't you eat on Valentine's Day?
I tell my patients, anything that is tasting good on your tongue is not good for you.
So those chocolate cakes? I'm just kidding. I'm teasing.
But then I have some 90-year-olds, and I have to say, okay, it's okay, you can cheat, you have to have some quality of life.
Absolutely. So for like overall heart health, it's just eating whole grains, lots of vegetables.
What I recommend is something that you can stick to.
Yeah.
Like not think of it as a diet. Okay, I'm going to be on a diet for some time. No, think of it as your lifestyle. So whatever you can incorporate in your daily thing as a lifestyle change, make that change. And you can start small, slow. Yes, a lot of whole grains, multigrain, because they're complex carbohydrates. So your body has to work harder for absorption, not as much calorie intake, limits the carbs, low saturated fat, and high protein intake.
What's your feeling on sweet potatoes and white potatoes?
So both of those have like significant amount of carb content. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to consume again in very small quantities.
One's not necessarily better than the other?
Oh, no.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, there is a lot of thought versus yam versus sweet potato versus potato, if anything is better, but they all have naturally occurring sugar to it and carbs. Mm-hmm. And simple carbohydrates, so it gets easily absorbed.
Right.
So it's not necessarily one versus the other.
So I have a family history of high cholesterol, and mine is ticking higher. And my doctor suggested before we get to the medication point is fiber capsules, daily fiber capsules. And so I picked up a bottle, and it says if you're taking them for high cholesterol, you should have up to 20 a day.
Holy cannoli, Batman!
To me, that's what it says on the bottle. It says 4 capsules up to 5 times a day, or maybe it's 5 capsules up to 4 times a day.
Oh, good.
Is that something that in your practice, do you ever recommend fiber capsules? Okay.
No.
Wait, what is it?
The only reason I don't recommend all these other supplements is because it is not FDA regulated. So you really don't know what is put in there. I say that if it agrees with you, if it is helping you, then it's okay. But if you ask me, I would not recommend based on my medical knowledge, and clinical judgment. Yes, what we recommend is depending on what kind of cholesterol you have, high, like LDL versus triglycerides versus total cholesterol. If the HDL is low, there are different types, of diet that I would recommend and focus on. For someone with high triglycerides, I would try to definitely steer them towards a little bit low carb diet. Whereas if they have high LDL, then I would, have them have more physical activity, weight loss, a little bit of like decreasing the total calorie intake. So it all depends on what kind of cholesterol you have on the higher side. But again, all the supplements have their pros and cons. So yeah, up to 20, I don't know. That's a lot. Yes.
Any benefit to dark chocolate?
Yes, it has something that we call like a naturally occurring, I forgot what the exact word is. It is a resveratrol or something, which is kind of something that we, like what we find in red wine as well. So there is some benefit, but as such, we do not recommend that consume certain degree of dark chocolate, to decrease your cholesterol. No, but if you want, yes, if you're going to go for a chocolate, then preferably dark chocolate. Just like if you're going to go for a wine, preferably red wine.
Wine.
I have a question. You talked about the Mediterranean diet.
Yes.
Now, for someone like me who needs to lose a pound or two, is there a different type of Mediterranean that you continue Mediterranean, but yet it'll increase your weight loss? Or just doing a Mediterranean diet should take care of itself?
So Mediterranean diet just by itself would not just help you with the weight loss. But yes, if you're following the Mediterranean diet, keeping your total calorie intake in account as well, along with like limiting processed food, saturated fat, and the red meat, like animal protein overall, then yes, it helps with weight loss and maintenance of it for a long time. Mm-hmm. And then increasing physical activity is a very important part of it as well.
I know I'm in the same boat. I just had a baby, so I'm like trying to, get back onto, so we've been going for daily walks and, I've been trying to increase my physical activity, even though running around the house, isn't enough. But what I've been trying to do is just follow a loose, Mediterranean diet, but I'm trying to incorporate a lot more vegetables than the carb or.
Limiting the carb and the fat intake, increasing protein and vegetables overall.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So that's what so there are other different diets. There's the low carbohydrate diet, DASH diet. That's one of them. And the DASH diet has 2 to 3 servings of vegetables, 2 to 3 servings of fruits, very less serving of saturated fat. Like the total intake of fat for the whole day is like less than 20%. Yeah.
Yeah, the rice is almost done. Just a couple more minutes. I just tried it and it was still a little crunchy. Well, not crunchy, but not quite there yet. Firm. But I do like the sprouted rice. I have been getting a lot because I think it's delicious. It's a little nutty flavor. And then I'm gonna put a little bit of almonds in there.
But you cook so clean. I mean, I'm just looking at it and I'm so impressed. My kitchen
so messy.
would be, like if I'm running around, there would be stuff here or there that I would have to clean later on.
I know. Also, everybody always asks me, what's the one thing that I could tell people or that I recommend? And I like to usually clean as I go. So if I'm making this at home, I'll put something together and put everything in the, put those dishes in the dishwasher. And because when it gets hectic, I think when there's too much stuff and it gets so hectic, it feels overwhelming and, then cooking gets stressful. And then at the end of the day, it's just food. Right? So it shouldn't be stressful. And I feel if you enjoyed it and, a lot more people would do it, but a lot of times it feels, especially I have some people like reach out to me all the time, and be like, oh my gosh, like all the like. I cook at home a lot, and it's just because I like to cook. I did go to culinary school, but it's just part of my passion, right? So I'm always like, I know it's hard to find a passion if you detest, like my sister, she hates cooking. She's not good at it, but I've been so proud of her because she started this thing where she is kind of like doing like a reset right now where she only ate like super clean. She's on this, it's like 72 days. It's a little intense. But she's like super clean, a lot of vegetables, like certain types of like carbs. Like she can have like brown rice and quinoa and millet. And she's just trying to reset her gut and her microbiome inside her tummy and her overall health. And so you can't like go and buy foods that are already pre-made with a lot of those things. So she's been cooking a lot at home. I mean, I've been getting a lot of text messages from her, be like, oh my gosh, I can't use this, that, or whatever. But she's also, and I mean, like you were saying, if you're gonna start something, or if you're gonna start a lifestyle rather than a diet, you gotta start with very slow and things that are obtainable. Because if you're like, I'm gonna do this and it's not gonna be obtainable, then you're never gonna do it. I mean, that's how I am.
Yes.
And
that's how most people are, that if it is something that is hard to reach for, hard to find, if the recipe calls for this and only this amount, you're not gonna stick to it. Yeah, you're gonna find substitutes to it, and then it does not help you overall.
Yeah.
So.
Any recommendations for someone like me who hates to cook? And it's only me, so it's,
It is hard. It's hard to cook for, one person or even two people. I mean, I would say doing a lot of meal prepping. If you don't like cooking, try to pick one day of the week where you're like, okay, I'm gonna cook. Because rice can always be frozen. You can cook it, put it in a little container and freeze it. So that way you'll have it pull it out of the freezer the next day, or in a couple of days and you already have it, so you don't actually have to cook it. So I like to batch cook at my house because, now with the baby, I'm like, oh, I don't even have time. So I'll make one big pot of rice and then portion it out and put a lot of it in a Ziploc bag in the freezer. And when I put it in the freezer, I just take the Ziploc bag and press it so it's nice and thin. It takes 2 seconds to defrost when I'm throwing something together for dinner. And I kind of do that with sweet potatoes. I'll roast sweet potatoes and vegetables and stuff like that, and throw a lot in the freezer, and just because life gets hectic. And if you don't like cooking, doing it all, in a day or two, so that way you don't have to spread it over a couple days, would be better. Oh.
Yeah, meal prep for me has helped a lot. Because of the busy schedule, it sometimes gets difficult to cook. So the weekends that I have free, I do my groceries and meal prep for the week. So that at least I have something ready or the base ready, so that it doesn't take significant amount of time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then that way, frozen fish.
Wild caught but frozen.
Yeah, that's fine. Because a lot of times that'll be fresher, if you will, than because they usually just catch it, flay it, freeze it.
Right. Yeah, Publix has a pretty good supply of and it's a small amount. So Costco has the sockeye, fresh sockeye, but
Yeah.
freezer.
Yeah, that's fine. That is fine. Okay, we got this rice. I was gonna forget. I forgot the parsley in the salad. I was just thinking that. I was like, oh darn.
I thought of that, but I wasn't gonna.
That's okay. That's good.
Do you know how to dry parsley?
I've never dried it before, but I would imagine in a dehydrator or something like that. But here we are. Here's the rice.
There's nice, good color to it, all the different, yes.
And you eat with your eyes too. So I always like to make things
That's true.
pretty.
You
I
eat
always,
with your eyes too.
I always garnish stuff, even at home. And like I'll garnish stuff. Everybody's like, you're just gonna be eating it at home. I'm like, well, you know, you eat with your eyes, and you want to make it pretty, right? So.
I'm totally going to steal that sentence for future.
Yeah, and it's you know,
If it looks appealing to you, your appetite already, you know, it helps you with that.
Yeah. I have a friend who was like, oh gosh, you know, like the whole she was like starting the new year with like a clean diet. I'm like, just add a nice little garnish to it and it'll be.
Yeah, I like adding, so as part of the Indian curries that we make, instead of the parsley, we use cilantro. It's almost the same, yes. So there is a lot of garnishing with cilantro, so adding color to it. Carrots. Yes. Mm-hmm. So I like those colors.
So I'm always infatuated with Indian curries because there's so many, and it's just like, it's a lot based on like province too, right? And there should be majority of them are all heart healthy too, because they're...
Not really.
No?
I was realizing it, that I keep on talking about Indian culture and food, but it's not as heart healthy. Really? Yes. In South Asians, what we actually see is because of the way the curries are cooked, there is more oil to it and more saturated oil in it. So we see a lot of... we call it the paradox for the heart disease, because people are lean and thin built. Their BMI is not on the higher side, but they have significant heart disease. Their coronaries have a lot of disease and small vessels. So sometimes it becomes very difficult to treat that.
Really?
Yes. So you would not find like higher BMI person with diabetes in India. You would find actually a leaner person, and you would never think that they have any, problems, but they have metabolic syndrome. That's what we call. So metabolic syndrome predisposes, have high incidence of developing diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease. Yes. So Indian food is not as healthy. Yes.
It's so good.
But it depends on how you cook it, how you incorporate it again with your lifestyle choices. You can make it like the healthier version. Yeah. The restaurant versions are not as healthy.
The butter chicken.
Yes, that's the standard dish.
I'm just teasing.
Can you do a quick goodbye to the at-home people so we can and then we can stop that?
Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today at home, and sorry about the little snafu with our web, Zoom. Thank you so much, Dr. Patel, for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And we hope you learned something, and ta-ta for now.